And hey there, it's me Mudlink and welcome to the finale of the Great Ace Attorney adventure. So last time we started with the fourth part of this trial. We got to see that the music box discs contain very secret government information. And of course, we got very close to finding out who the culprit is. But Ashley Graydon completely flipped the lid on us, and now we have one last chance to present evidence just so that we don't end up losing our case. But it's not going to be a great look. In any case, the cat Flabomat. What on earth is that eccentric contraption, Counsel?
Oh, it's my cat Flabomat, my lord. It makes a way for cats to get in and out of a room. It can cut through any door you can think of, and make a new little door in the middle of it.
That's right, my lord. The device for creating so-called cat flaps. Small doors for cats to come and go as they please, without their owners having to open the main door.
I'm sure we can all work that out for ourselves. But that cat lover's contrivance has no possible relevance to this case.
Oh, really?
Of course it doesn't. To start with, there was no cat flap in the pawnbroker's door.
Not being a keeper of cats myself, I'm afraid I failed to see what this has to do with the matter at hand. Perhaps it would help if I described its function another way, then. This contraption is able to create a peephole in any door you can imagine in practically no time at all. I beg your pardon? A peephole, you say? 2 nights ago, we arrived at the scene only minutes after the murder of Mr. Windybank had taken place. That's right. Going to the paperwork at the yard, it was you, your Japanese assistant, and Holmes. And Holmes, called Grimy. Yes, the 3 of us were together, and it's recently come to my attention that my assistant made use of this device at the time. Your assistant did what? There was a peephole in the storeroom door. I can attest to that. Because I looked through the peephole myself in order to see inside the locked storeroom.
This is ludicrous. What are you trying to say? Of course there was a peephole in the door. I said as much as my testimony. How else could I have witnessed a crime, for pity's sake?
Yes, how could you?
What?
Counsel, kindly say what you mean. Alright, it's time. Time to strike the final blow. What I mean is this, my lord. My assistant made the peephole in the storeroom door, and until such time as she did, the door had no hole in it to look through.
What? No! This is a farce. Are you really suggesting that the peephole in the door was?
Yes, it was created only after the incident had taken place by my judicial assistant using this device. Your assistant tampered with the crime scene. Whilst being fully aware of the gravity of our actions, it is the most serious act of vandalism. For which I humbly apologize, my lord. It was in a few minutes that I left the scene in order to pursue the Skulkin brothers and alert the police. Nevertheless, in the light of this new information, it becomes apparent that Mr. Graydon's testimony is riddled with holes. Explain yourself, counsel. The majority of Mr. Graydon's testimony that appears to incriminate the defendant is based upon what he witnessed through the peephole in the storeroom door.
Yes, that filthy girl shooting the man in the back.
However, if at the time of the incident, that peephole did not yet exist in the door, there's no possible way that you could have seen what you claim to have seen. In short, your entire testimony is a pack of lies. Ugh. Order! Is there any credence in this revelation?
None whatsoever, as my learned friend must surely realize. Exactly. This is just some cheap trick designed to discredit me.
I'm afraid not, sir.
Of course it is. Do you seriously expect people to believe that plaything can cut through a solid wooden door? Oh yes, I designed to be very powerful. It can cut through even the toughest of doors. That's absurd. I don't believe it for a second. Haha, I had a feeling you'd say that.
What?
Quacky, cooey, time for dinner. Well?
Young lady, this is the Old Bailey. One does not make cat flaps in the oak paneling at the Old Bailey.
I'm not done yet, don't worry. This doesn't mean that the peephole in the storeroom door Windy Banks was made by a machine. And there's no way you can prove that it was. No, but it's easy.
What?
The cat flaps my cat flap-o-mat crates are all of a fixed size. The dimensions of the people at Windy Banks are an exact match. Ugh. Oopsie lookies, lost for words.
Excellent work, Iris. Thank you.
And now it's my learned student friend's turn to be lost for words, I feel.
Sorry.
I believe your judicial assistant has already left the country for your Eastern Island home.
Well, yes, that's true.
Then you may have some difficulty in establishing all the facts. For the sake of argument, let us assume the people has dimensions that are a perfect fit for this contraption. In that case, when was the people cut? The prosecution demands proof of your answer.
What's the purpose of your line of inquiry, Lord Van Jeeks?
It's very simple, my lord. The defense argues that the people was created after the incident using this device. But now that the perpetrator has returned to her native land, she cannot testify to the fact. There is no proof. Ugh. And for as long as the defense remains unable to prove when the peephole was made, my learned friend's claims amounts to nothing more than a baseless accusation. What?
Fuck. Indeed, that is so, Lord Van Jeeks. Well, counsel.
Don't give up now, Runo. This is the time to create your own opening and force your way through.
I don't know if I can do this, but I do know one thing. Susato-san is the greatest judicial assistant in the world. Very well. The counsel for the defense will present evidence to support the claim made. Proof that the peephole in the door of Windy Banks' storeroom was created after the event and not before.
What are you? A print from that detective's infernal cameras again.
My judicial assistant, Miss Susato Mikotoba, is an extremely intelligent and capable woman, which is why I never had any cause to doubt that she would have considered this scenario and made sure I had the necessary proof. The necessary proof is this photographic print, counsel? This print shows the scene in the shop moments after the defendant entered the premises.
Agreed. And it also shows the accused mercilessly wielded a gun in the direction of the defense's broker.
But more to the point, it pictures the storeroom door in the background. Let me see that print again.
I don't believe it. This really is quite remarkable. The door to the storeroom is completely devoid of a peephole of any description.
Mr. Graydon, you couldn't possibly have witnessed the crime as you claim to have done, because at the time it happened, there was no peephole in the door. In other words, your testimony is a catalog of lies. And he's back to standing up. Order, order, order! I'm satisfied that the defense has substantiated his claim beyond all reasonable doubt. The witness's testimony was entirely fallacious.
That's not the only thing we know now beyond all reasonable doubt. My learned friend's assistant's guilt can no longer be denied. The woman tampered with a crime scene. But more importantly,
Good lord, there's more, Lord Van Zeeks.
The defense may have established a reprehensible instance of perjury. But that is no proof that this man is the victim's killer. Yes, that's right.
What?
I was there at the scene. It's true. And I was shot in the arm, it's true. But that's all. Yes, in fact, if you look at the circumstances, I am the victim here.
Oh, please. No!
I don't believe this. But they're right. As it stands now, I don't have any definitive proof that he is the culprit. Still can't worm his way out of it now. Iris, you know what they say? There's no point in locking the cat's door after the cat is bolted. Isn't that right, Runo? As totally as it always says. One lie begets another. No, wait. That might have been the line I wrote for him in one of my stories. Well, no matter who said it first, you're right. Mr. Graydon, not only did you give false testimony to the court, but the lies you told make no sense. Make no sense? What do you mean by such a remark? What you said in your testimony reveals that you know something you shouldn't have known. In other words, there is a fundamental inconsistency in your statements. What? This is provocative talk, counsel. Won't you enlighten the court? Explain this alleged inconsistency. Iris is right. One lie begets another. The inconsistency is revealed by the lies in the witnesses' statements. They show that Mr. Graydon had knowledge of something he shouldn't have known anything about, namely, the bloodstains that were present on Miss Lestrade's coat. That's right. The victim's blood spattered all over her when she shot him. But how could you possibly have known that? Obviously, because I saw her do it through the peephole in the... The point is not that you lied in your testimony, Mr. Graydon. It's the nature of the lie you concocted that is so revealing. You're not making any sense. Then let me ask you a simple question. How is it, Mr. Graydon, that you knew the existence of the peephole in the storeroom door? What? Well, obviously Sakai, caught your tongue, witness. The peephole in the door was made after the incident occurred, and once I returned to the shop having failed to catch the two burglars, Scotland Yard's investigators have arrived immediately. Since that time, the police have been at Windy Banks constantly, carrying out their investigation. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Oh, go blimey, well, yes, of course, The place is chock full of pawned articles and my lads have to thoroughly examine them all. I gave the order to have officers working around the clock in shifts so we get through it all. And consequently, there's no way that you, Mr. Graydon, could have gained access to the shop. Therefore, you should not have known anything about the peephole in the storeroom door, so the fact that its existence forms the basis of your testimony is completely inexplicable. And yet, the fact remains that Mr. Graydon did maintain that he witnessed the crime take place through the peephole in the door. How on earth is that possible? Goldberg, could I have a word, please? Lord Van Zeeks. Speak, Inspector. It's just that I really ought to be getting back to the station now to put in my report. There's really nothing more I could add to this testimony, so if it's all the same to you, permission denied. Oh. It's not all the same to me, Inspector. Not at all. You will remain exactly where you are until the trial concludes. Of course, sir. Mr. Graydon. You shouldn't have known about the existence of that peephole. Which can only mean that you must have been informed about it by somebody else. Stop there, my learned friend. You realize, I trust, that the words you just uttered have extremely serious implications. Yes. But the defense believes that the details about the case that Mr. Graydon claims to have seen must have been revealed to him by a certain person before his testimony. And in fact, considering a particular clue we have, there's really only one person that it could be. Who is the person in question, counsel? Who gave this witness details of the crime scene to facilitate his false testimony? The truth is, it can only have been you, Inspector Gregson. Alright, go, bro. I mean, what? Me? What? You had better have some proof to substantiate. You had better have some proof to substantiate such a rash claim, my learned friend.
Consider the fact that we have only been aware of Mr. Ashley Graydon's identity for the last few hours. We learned of it only during the course of the trial today. Indeed, preparations for his testimony were made with great urgency during our hour-long recess. While the police executed the subpoena and brought the man here from the communication station. And until that time, Mr. Graydon would have had no idea, no inkling that he would suddenly be required to appear in court. Are you suggesting that until such time as you were summoned? Yes, my lord. Until then, it's reasonable to assume he knew nothing of the peephole. It's only once Mr. Graydon was in the stand that he realized his position, that he would have had to defend himself against the accusation that he was the third intruder.
You're suggesting to the court that it was while this trial was in progress that he received the information, so that he could commit perjury in order to save his skin?
Exactly. And the only person with knowledge of the investigation that he had any contact with is you, Inspector Gregson.
There's a bloomin' outrage. God blimey, why are we giving away details of our investigations to this fella, eh? I was summoned to his lordship's chambers during the recess in any case. Had you forgotten that?
Quite true. I had a number of questions regarding the events that transpired at the pawnbrokery.
Which means the first time these two laid eyes on one another was after proceedings resumed following the recess. Since then, they've been in full view of the stand, where such illicit discussions couldn't possibly have occurred. Ah. Oh, I just remembered something, Runo.
What is it, Iris?
There was one time before, wasn't there? I think it was when Ginny was testifying.
Oh yes, now you mention it. When the bailiff was dispatched to retrieve Mr. McGilda's music box from the scene of the crime.
That's it!
It was during that testimony. I remember finding it strange at the time. Mr. Graydon and the inspector seemed to be having some kind of secret discussion. It would have been possible for you to give Mr. Graydon the information he needed then.
You little toe rag, you're making all this up. I'm a respectable Scotland Yard inspector, for crying out loud. Or to do something like that. Or to be giving away confidential details to the likes of this bloke.
Admittedly, you wouldn't have had any reason to do something like that for no gain, but perhaps it was part of a deal of some kind. Then it starts to make more sense.
What deal, counsel?
I wonder if perhaps in exchange for details about the people at the crime scene, Mr. Graydon agreed to give a certain something to the inspector. Sure, need not remind you, Inspector, that if found to be true, striking a deal of any kind with a witness would be considered a gross case of malfeasance. Okay, more words I can't fucking pronounce.
Malfeasance.
Malfeasance. Malfeasance.
It's becoming clear. Jumping in with accusations is a Snippeney's student's specialty.
Or what I don't do that.
With the stakes so high, the prosecution is not prepared to listen to baseless charges. It is incumbent on the defense now to present evidence in support of this diabolic claim.
Evidence? Just what are you proposing that the inspector demanded of the witness in return?
The court must see proof of this alleged deal. The court must see proof of this alleged deal.
And if Inspector Gregson really did strike a deal with Mr. Graydon, then logically, there's only one thing he could have asked for. That must be it.
You know, do you think it could be?
Yes. It's the missing link that would join all the dots together in this puzzle.
I must press you for an answer now, counsel. What evidence explains the nature of the alleged deal that Inspector Gregson made with the witness?
Inspector Gregson, besides this murder, is it not true that you've been working on another very important case?
What? Are you getting that now, Sunshine?
Is it possible that this other top-secret case is what's alluded to in this newspaper article here? The classified secrets being leaked overseas from the Ministry of Justice.
How the bleeding Nora could you?
We discovered during the course of this trial the music box deposited at Whitney Banks by Magnus McGilded. A special music box designed to play 2 discs at once. It would seem very likely now that encoded on the pair of discs that were in McGilded's possessions are the leaked classified secrets. So I put it to you, Inspector, that in order to recover the second of the discs containing those secrets, you covertly made a deal with Mr. Graydon in which you exchanged the disc for details of the case. You little... Ah! God blimey! Order! On the day of the incident, when we met you at Windy Banks, you said this. I'll be taking that whatever it is of McGilda down to the yard, thank you very much. So hand it over. No, don't. Don't give it to him. It's mine, that is. Mine! I'm sorry, miss. Or anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now. Scotland Yard already knew that at the time, isn't that right? That Magnus McGilded was involved in the stealing of government secrets. My orders were, recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT. Strictly hush-hush. Strictly in the quiet time.
And that explains why, when I presented this disc as evidence to the court, you objected so heavily, I presume. Because you knew that it contained highly confidential information.
Blimey, that's not likely. I mean, I wasn't sure of it myself. I realized there was a possibility, that's all. Inspector, surely you're not saying that in order to acquire the second of these music box discs, you did indeed reveal confidential details of the crime scene to the witness? To aid and abet this man in giving false testimony? There's no other way that Mr. Graydon could have known of the existence of the peephole. It's the only explanation. A deal was struck between these two men.
No.
Gah! God blimey!
If, and I stress if, this sobering assertion turns out to be founded in truth, it would mean that the second disc is, as we speak, here in this very courtroom.
Wait, what? In this room? How could you possibly make a claim like that?
Because Inspector Gregson is Scotland Yard detective.
What? What's that supposed to mean, eh?
As a seasoned policeman, the inspector will have approached this alleged deal with caution. Certainly, he would not have accepted a gentleman's agreement in this matter. No, he would not. He would have insisted on having the article agreed upon in the palm of his hand.
Good gracious, then. You mean to say Inspector Gregson already has the item in question in his possession? He has the second disc actually on his person?
Hey!
The defense demands that the inspector is searched at once.
Definitely. They could only have struck a deal with each other when Ginny was testifying before, and Gregsy hasn't moved from the witness stand since.
My lord, please. No, order an examination of his personal effects immediately. Well, Inspector? That young lad wants to tone down his imagination. He's insulted me and my profession quite enough. However, if it'll put this matter to bed, dispel any doubts about my involvement, I will happily submit to a body search.
What?
He's going to agree to it?
I presume you're aware of the precipice on which you now teeter, my learned student friend. You've made a most serious allegation against Scotland Yard here. If, following the search of the inspector's personal effects, there's no disc is found, you will be deemed unfit for court service. This trial will end, and my country's government will formally demand of yours that you are severely reprimanded.
It sounds serious. Indeed, to have a visiting student make such defamatory remarks about our country's most senior police force is not something Her Majesty's government will be able to overlook.
You're just threatening Runa because you're scared. The accusation is beyond serious. You must be prepared for grave consequences.
It's true. I can't imagine Gregson would have accepted a gentleman's agreement for something so critical. The disc must have physically changed hands, which means the inspector should have it. But somehow, something doesn't feel quite right here. Very well, Counsel. You know the implications, so let me ask you one final time. Yes, my lord. Do you still persist in formally requesting a search of the inspector's personal effects? Yes, the defense formally demands the search be conducted. Well,
don't say you weren't warned, but your typical Nipponese stubbornness may well land you in hot water this time. Perhaps the lesson will do you some good.
Fair enough, I got nothing to hide. Very well then. Bailiff, conduct a search of the inspector's personal effects, please. The defense demands a search, but not of Inspector Gregson. What?
God, blimey, what was all this? I'm the one you accused, aren't I? I thought you wanted to search me.
No, Inspector. Not you. Somebody else.
What's the meaning of all this, eh? Rusted at last, have you, sunshine? Of course you didn't have to put up with this nonsense. You're being completely irrational. Be quiet, all of you. Be quiet, all of you. Reno's doing what you all told him to do, and having the courage of his convictions.
I forgot it was Iris that spoke there.
So you should respect that and listen to what he has to say in good faith, because that's the British way.
Well said, young lady. Indeed, this court is in awe of the defense counsel's conviction and eagerly awaits his next words.
You what? Now don't be hasty, my lord.
If I'm not mistaken about the things I've seen in court today, I'm fairly sure that I know who has that disc at the moment. There's only one person it can be. Counsel, of whom do you request a search now? Of, my lord, Mr. Nash Skulkin.
Well, I never. Blimey. Me? Him?
Very well then, bailiff. Restrain the witness and conduct a thorough search of his personal effects.
Please, go blimey, my lord.
Inspector,
Skulnyard, has to object to the search. Unfortunately for you, Inspector, your objections carry no weight here. In this courtroom, only the prosecution and the defense have the authority to object.
But Lord Van Zeeks?
I have no idea what forces are in play that might influence your actions. But personally, I have no intention of obstructing the course of this trial. God blimey.
Bailiff, carry out the search. Now, out on him, Mo.
I know nothing.
Nothing about no disc.
Cut it out! Here, my lord, in the witness's pocket. I found this.
Good lord, that's
another music box disc.
I know nothing about it.
Nothing.
That is the second music box disc left behind by Magnus McGilded. Is it not, Inspector Gregson?
Order! Mr. Skulkin, what have you to say for yourself? Gordon Bennett! Gordon Fleming Bennett! I swear I didn't know nothing about that disc. Honest to God.
Counsel, would you please explain what exactly is going on here? This deal I was struck was between this witness and this detective, no? Without question, my lord. Then, for pity's sake, why on earth was this man in possession of the disc that the inspector traded for information? Inspector Gregson is a shrewd, calculating man who rarely loses his composure. But at one particular point of this trial, he exhibited some unusual behavior for a brief moment. I don't recall. What unusual behavior? It was, yes, during my cross-examination of Mr. Graydon. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbrokery that night, was it by any chance with the second disc in your jacket pocket?
I admit to nothing of the sort.
While Mr. Graydon answered my questions, the inspector appeared to have grabbed Nash Skulkin by his coat and was shaking him violently. Yeah, he did know. He told me noggin was gonna fall clean off, I did. I was wishing I'd been born as me brother, I was. And what exactly happened to make the detective attack you like that?
I ain't got a clue. He just suddenly turned and grabbed me whistle like that and started shaking me. Well, Blaze, didn't you mention the third gun when you got down to the station? That's what he said. You had the right down my ear hole, he did. My head's still throbbing now.
The way the detective behaved then was extremely out of character. But looking back now, it must have been then that he did it. That was the opportunity Inspector Gregson created for himself in order to hide the disc.
Well, bless my wig, you heard it? You.
You? God blimey. I'm afraid I failed to comprehend the motive here. If the detective had acquired the disc he was after, why on earth would he then proceed to hide it in another man's pocket? There's a court of law. He could have submitted the item as evidence.
It would appear, my lord, that the inspector was not at liberty to do that.
Why ever not?
As the man himself revealed earlier, his current assignment has some special conditions.
My orders were, recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT. Strictly hush-hush. Hush-hush, a top-secret assignment, is it?
As far as we're aware, the information stolen comes from confidential government communications. It would seem that if that information were to be revealed in court as evidence, it would be problematic. Does that sum up the situation, Inspector?
I'm operating under direct orders from the ministry. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to answer that question.
So, realizing there was a chance that you may be searched in court, you took steps to hide the disc you had acquired from the witness.
Does this mean... He only pretended to attack Mr. Skulk in order to get close enough to him to slip the second disc into his pocket. So it was all a pretense. Well now, Inspector Gregson, and you, Mr. Graydon, are you prepared to admit to the accusation made against you of this alleged deal?
Admit to it, yours truly, please. Mr. Graydon, clearly our Eastern visitor has an uncommonly active imagination. However, there's no proof that I passed that disc to the inspector.
But then, how do you explain the reason why you knew about the peephole?
I'm under no obligation to explain.
What?
Yes, I lied in my testimony. That I admit, so sentence me accordingly. But that is all I admit. Murder, leaking government secrets, striking a deal with the detective. All of it is this young Eastern man's fancy. I have no idea what any of that is about.
You... What? Well, what about you then, Inspector Gregson? Just checking something. Just checking that. Do you admit to making a deal with Mr. Graydon in order to acquire the disc? Ladies and gents of the jury, Scotland Yard Inspector, I would declare this and nothing more. God blimey. I'm acting in the best interest of the country. Whatever I've done, it's been in the name of justice. So, as members of the public of this fine country, I'd like to think that justice will be your guiding light when you're making your decisions. This is quite a quandary indeed. Rarely have I encountered such extraordinary tumultuousness in the concluding of a trial. Nevertheless, in the absence of any further evidence to be presented, I believe it is time that we put the matter to the jury for their final readings. Well, now, as a fellow servant of Queen and country, I must say I sympathize with the old inspector. Yeah, just checking something. Yeah.
Yes, he's a dependable man, I'm quite sure. In service, one becomes a good judge of character. Even crossing your eyes doesn't help when it comes to looking at this case. It's all blurred to me.
Well, as a fellow professional, I'd like to put my faith in a detective, really.
Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop.
Detective is very much thrust in eyes. More than this, I cannot say.
I don't believe it. These six jurors are. They're going to believe Gregson? They declare their decision now. Is Ginny going to be found guilty?
If I don't manage to produce some definitive evidence right now, then we're going to lose. Either some proof that Graydon killed Mr. Windybank or stole his government secrets. Or some evidence to force Gregson into admitting that he struck a deal with the witness. Well then, Counsel, I think it's time I imposed on the jurors to declare their final decisions, no? That is, unless you have some compelling evidence you have thus far not presented to the court. But let the judge call on the jurors to announce their leanings. Gino will be found guilty.
There's no choice then, Runo. You have to throw some more evidence at them.
This is it now. It all comes down to this. Who do I present evidence against, Gregson or Graydon? Inspector Gregson, there is one final piece of evidence I would like you to see. What's that then? If you refuse to acknowledge that you did in fact strike a deal with the witness here today, then you leave us no choice but to examine this piece of evidence thoroughly. Well, go on. This is my last chance. It looks like I'm gonna have to force his hand here. One final piece of evidence to get this detective to admit to the deal he clearly struck with Graydon. Yeah, he's actually gonna fucking go there. Is that Mr. McGilda's peculiar music box, Counsel? Yes, with a disc already in place, ready to play. I think perhaps now would be a good time to listen to the sound produced by the music box again. Only this time, with a second disc we've just discovered set in place as well. Goodness, that's this disc, Counsel.
Oh, Bobby, no! Wait! I can't let you do that!
Why not?
Because, well... Because it's got nothing to do with this case. That's why.
Not true, Inspector. The defense has already proposed that the sounds heard by the court earlier from this music box are a part of a Morse code message. We know that Morse code comprises of two distinct tones. The defense believes that the second disc contains the second tone needed to complete the message. And now we have a chance to confirm that theory.
For crying out loud, Sunshine, we're talking about state secrets here. If you're gonna let in the whole country, a courtroom hear confidential information like that, it's treason.
Then do you admit the charge? And in order to protect those state secrets, you engage in unlawful dealings with a witness.
You're mad. If you let that secret information out into the public domain, you'll be making an enemy of the entire British government, you idiot.
Let's not forget, Inspector, that you, a Scotland Yard officer, leaked confidential case details to a witness, that you continued to lie to the court, and all because by fair means or foul, you're determined to do your duty. Well, by fair means or foul, I'm prepared to do mine.
Don't you dare.
I will stop at nothing to protect my client. I don't care who I make an enemy of. My lord, if you please, the court must hear the sounds made by that music box.
Come on, Forensics, for Pete's sake, stop him.
Sorry.
Inspector, you should know my methods by now. I'm a prosecutor. I'm no Scotland Yard puppet. In this courtroom, my duty is to the law, so let me propose a toast to uncovering the truth by a fair means or foul.
No!
Such a fucking badass scene!
Very well, the defense's stance here and that of the prosecution has been made very clear, I feel. Therefore, in accordance with the defense's request, the court will now listen to this music as this music box is set in operation once more. This time with the second disc in place, and both discs playing simultaneously. Oh, listen to that. It's unmistakable now. It's Morse code.
Alright, I admit it. Whatever you want, but for the love of God, shut that blooming box up!
Let me ask you again then, Inspector Gregson. Did you or did you not strike a deal with the witness next to you in the stand, Mr. Ashley Graydon? Specifically, did you furnish a witness with confidential case details in exchange for this music box disc? Did you reveal the existence of the people in the pawnbroker storeroom, Inspector? I did.
Stop! What are you doing, man? What are you doing, man?
Yeah, sorry about that. It's all exactly like the young Eastern lawyer said. When the trial resumed after the recess, and we were stood here in the stand together, that's when he approached me with the deal.
Shut up, you imbecile! Shut up! Psst, you there. You're the detective who turned up at the pawnbrokery the other day, aren't you? We have something you're looking for, Inspector, with me at this very moment. So how about a trade? I suggest you accept. More information that may make certain individuals uncomfortable will soon become very public indeed.
I couldn't let that information become public knowledge under any circumstances. So I accepted the man's proposal and told him about the case that should have put him in the clear. Yeah, let's just check in some things. People in the storeroom and the bloodstains in the overcoat. By giving false testimony, this witness intended to have the defendant wrongly accused of murder. Inspector, you knew that. Yeah, just... Yet you still reveal those details to facilitate the witness's perjury. I did. But then it turned out that people had only been made that night after the incident took place. Scotland Yard wasn't aware of that, if I'm perfectly honest. Well, Mr. Graydon, what do you have to say for yourself? There's nothing and no one left for you to hide behind. You struck a deal with the inspector in order to escape conviction of a very serious crime. Namely this. You are the third intruder who broke into the pawnbroker on the night in question. And you perpetrated the murder of the proprietor, Mr. Pop Windybank.
You! Traitor!
I missed the burn in hell, traitor. That was a better line.
Bailiff, restrain that man, at once!
That's it then. It's all over.
I despised my life growing up. The slums are vile places. I was cursed from birth, born into poverty, the son of a penniless artisan. My parents did nothing but quarrel all day long. What little money they had was never spent on me. So I set about studying, to better myself, to one day escape from that hellhole.
You eventually became a communications officer. I admire your determination. But then you decided to try to sell government secrets? Why?
Isn't it obvious? Because I wanted money. Even now, years later, the nightmares of my life in the slums wake me in the small hours. I want to drown them out, with more money than anyone who lived in that squalor could ever imagine. Then one day I met him. Mr. Magnus McGilded. Gotta do the fucking voice again. You're a fiend with a queer talent, so you are. I have money to throw your way if you're interested. All you need to do is go along with me little plan now. We're gonna get back me Lucky Charms. I was to steal the ministry's telegraphic message logs, and McGilded would buy them for a handsome sum. As I was responsible for inspections of the ministry's communications office, it was a simple enough task. The law of the devil's offerings. How easy it is to succumb. But you must surely have realized the seriousness of the crime you were committing. And for that reason, I took great lengths to ensure that my actions were untraceable. By using the music box. My father was a brickmaker, though my mother divorced him when I was still a child. Yes, Mr. Mason Milverton. That's right. He was very skilled with his hands. He had once been a music box maker's apprentice. I imagined his skills would be sufficient to create a machine that could generate Morse code. So I sought out my father again, to employ his services. It was the first time I'd seen him since I left the slums 10 years earlier.
Look at you, Ashley. What a fine gent you've become, eh?
He was a different man to the one in my memory. A thin, frail old man, but poverty had never broken him, never corrupted him like it had me. I was sure that he wouldn't help me if I told him the real reason, so I made up a story. I got some work for you, Father. I need some music box discs made.
Music box disc, eh?
A musician friend of mine has written some music he wants to sell to the public. I brought the score with me. There are 2, actually.
I'd be delighted, son. It's been 20 years since I did any work like this, though.
Fetch my tools, would you? They're in the loft. That's how I had him make the 2 discs. By splitting the information in 2, you were taking considerable precautions indeed. It was to protect myself as much as anything. It meant that I could deal with McGilded in 2 separate transactions. The first involved the first of the 2 discs in the music box for playing them. I exchanged them with McGilded for 10 guineas. Then on receipt of the second disc, he would pay 1,000 guineas. So what happened on the omnibus 2 months ago was the second part of a deal? The exchange of the second disc? Yes. I'd sold the man information that way a number of times already, but it seems he became reluctant to part with his money.
But that doesn't quite make sense, Mr. Graydon. For why was it that on the omnibus 2 months ago, your father, Mr. Milverton, was the one dealing with Mr. McGilded and not yourself?
When I received 1,000 guineas after my first completed dealings with McGilded, I decided to give 200 to my father for his troubles. My father realized something was amiss. In time, he worked out that I must be involved in something dubious. And when he did, he said to me,
"Next time there's an exchange, you'll let your old man do it. Understand? Otherwise, I won't take your money anymore."
That was my father's way of dealing with it, I suppose. Climb into the omnibus, hand over the second disc, and take the money from McGilded. That's it. He had no idea what was actually on the discs I had asked him to make. He never knew. Just like I'll never know why everything went so horribly wrong that night. All I know is that the disc was taken from him, and he never returned home. It was only then that I found out what sort of a monster McGilded really was. So after 10 years of not once uttering it, I swore on my father's name. To exact revenge. Revenge? As anyone with even the remotest knowledge of the man will no doubt be able to imagine, McGilded brought all his wealth and influence to bear in the most despicable of ways. To crush any semblance of justice in his trial. The crime scene was tampered with, evidence was fixed, and witnesses were bribed. That trial 2 months ago was a farce from start to finish.
My feet had barely touched British soil back then, and I walked into that hornet's nest, completely unaware of the sinister background to it all. I'd made plenty of money out of my dealings with McGilded by then, so I spared nothing in my arrangements 2 months ago. I knew exactly who to hire. If you're willing to pay the price, there are people in the city willing to do anything you ask. McGilded himself had shown me that. Are you saying that? I think you have the picture now. After he twisted everything to his favor in this courtroom to ensure that he walked free, I took matters into my own hands and delivered the justice that monster deserves. That tragic accident following the trial here 2 months ago was planned and executed by yours truly. McGilded's death that day was caused by this man. Everything is ready, sir, if you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I was led to believe. I hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There's some changes to the schedule. The schedule? Heard how they say that sometimes. Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection. We're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. So that policeman who came to tell McGilded he would examine the omnibus again. That's right. An imposter. Hired by me. Oh man, that was actually, I forgot, that was an imposter instead of just him being disguised. Whoopsie. Hang on a second. Alright. I'm back. McGilded used his wealth to manipulate the trial. He paid people to adulterate the omnibus with all manner of false evidence. He threatened witnesses to lie in their testimony. So I gave the man a taste of his own medicine. Once the omnibus was doused in paraffin, one of my sham policemen ushered McGilded inside and sent him on a one-way journey to hell. An eye for an eye. That's how I avenged my father's death. A spine-chilling account indeed. But that wasn't the end of it for me. There was a loose end, you see. Loose end. Yes, I should think it's obvious. The second disc, which my father had taken to exchange with McGilded. Ah, yes. There was indeed no mention of it in the man's trial 2 months ago. Clearly because it had been removed from the scene of the crime. When I realized it was missing, I remembered something. Something from the first time I dealt with McGilded. This is the first of the 2 discs in the music box you need to play them. Oh, look at that now! What an ingenious little invention! So then, as promised, 10 guineas for you, young man. Oh, what's this? Wendy Banks' pawnbrokery? Oh, it is a pawnbroker's ticket, so it is. You can use it to redeem an article I've deposited there for you. There's no need to give her name, just hand over the ticket and tell the fiend the watchword. Put a jewel in pawn for you. It'll fetch a good 10 guineas if you sell it, so it will. Never heard of a pawnbrokery being used in quite that way before. Have you not, Mr. Graydon? London's pawnbrokeries are very useful places, you know. Each one is like an extremely secured vault. So I knew that if you'd taken steps to hide the disc, it would be in that pawnbrokery somewhere. And on that night, on the night he killed my father, he must have entrusted the ticket to someone. Yes, to Gina. I remember now that when we first met you at Wendy Banks that afternoon 2 days ago, you had a description of Miss Lestrade written down. How'd you know who you were looking for? From the trial. That pickpocket's testimony was clearly peculiar. Anyone could see that. I realized immediately that she was another of McGilded's pawns. That he must have threatened her somehow. I was fairly convinced that it would be her who had the ticket. So I started to make some inquiries. I had a strong suspicion the girl would come out of the woodwork on the redemption deadline. And he was absolutely right. And yes, sure enough, she did. All I needed to do was to wait until the girl went to Windy Banks to redeem the articles. But unfortunately, she redeemed only McGilded's overcoat and the one disc that was in its pocket. The all-important music box with the second disc inside was missing.
because it already had been forfeited 2 days earlier. I was unaware of that fact. Had it not been, I could have avoided my nighttime excursion.
Meanwhile, as our investigation into the stolen government secrets was progressing, we picked up on the fact that McGilda was involved.
Inspector, you recovered fast.
My orders were to recover the stolen information as quickly as possible, Gorbel Army, so we started gathering the fellow's possessions and examining whatever we could lay our hands on. We had a full-scale investigation going on at the yard, but we had to keep it as quiet as we could.
Then when the inspector here took the disc from me, in the pawnbrokery that day, I became nervous. I was sure the music box and the second disc was still there in the shop somewhere. So I knew that it was a race against time. I had to find those articles before the police did.
So that's what prompted you to break into the place that same night. With the help of your old friends, the Skulkin brothers.
What happened that night in the pawnbrokery? I can only describe as a nightmare. While Nash and Ringo were searching the counter, I located the music box I sold to McGilda on the shelves of forfeited articles.
And the second disc was inside.
And the second disc was inside. Yes, I slipped it into my pocket with a very deep sigh of relief. But then, something entirely unexpected happened.
What are you doing in my shop? I already forgot what I gave for the voice for Pop.
Gunshot rang out in the shop, and I felt a sharp pain in my left arm.
The broker fired his gun.
Why am I... Oh my god, my head. I don't know what's wrong with my head right now. The broker fired his gun, and the bullet pierced your limb.
Yes, exactly. But unfortunately,
I decided to bring my own gun with me that night, just in case. Before I knew what was happening, I'd fired back. The man had already turned to flee. I didn't intend to fire in his direction, much less kill him. But unfortunately for both of us, the bullet hit home. It struck him in the middle of his back as he fled through the storeroom door for refuge.
Sorry, tale.
It all took place in the blink of an eye. I don't imagine Nash and Ringo even realized what had happened at first. I was terrified, and so I fled. And that's the whole story. It's everything that happened at Windy Banks on that wretched night. Earlier, you called McGilda a monster. A man who used his wealth and influence to distort the facts and escape justice for the crime of murder. What tragic irony. For what you have done, it's exactly the same. You've become the very monster you saw and despised so deeply in McGilda. Yes, I think I have.
Well, this has been a long and exhausting trial. However, we've seen that at last we have arrived at the truth. Inspector Gregson, what of Mr. Ashley Graydon? He's been restrained, my lord. And he's been escorted to the yard. He'll be charged with the murder of Mr. Windybank and the stealing of government secrets.
Very good.
Also, the murder of Mr. McGilda. Sorry,
It's fucking McGonagall. God damn it!
It's old name. Very good. And you, Inspector, regrettably, you will have to face charges yourself. Yes, my lord, of course.
It transpires that you were complicit in helping a criminal escape justice. That fact remains, whether or not you were doing so in the line of duty. The crime is a serious one, Inspector, and inexcusable.
Now to the defendant, Miss Juno Lestrade.
Yeah?
It is time for the final adjudication. Is the jury ready, for Mr. Foreman?
Yes, sir. Girder Squadron standing by, sir. This is really it now. The last push, the final call, the finishing whistle. My men are ready to deliver their verdicts.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Very well. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we will now declare your final decisions to the court.
無罪
無罪
無罪無罪
無罪
無罪
Ha ha ha, that's the stuff. I'm all thick. Finally, Reno, you finally managed to do it.
Finally is the word. I really wasn't sure if we'd come out on top for a while there.
Susie was right. You're the best lawyer in the world.
Miss Lestrade, I'm not finished with you yet.
Eh? What are you looking at me like that for?
Before you start enjoying your freedom, there are certain other crimes to consider,
Eh?
2 months ago, in my courtroom no less, you gave false testimony, did you not? And in relation to the trial today, not only did you unlawfully enter Mr. Windybank's pawnbrokery, you also attempted to abscond with Mr. McGill's property, it seems.
Eh? I never done nothing of the sort.
Of course not. It's not like you were gleefully wearing McGill's coat in your cell yesterday or anything.
Aw, and just when I was getting excited about throwing a party for Ginny this evening.
Turning our attention to the defense. Determining that, when played together, the music box disc contained a message in Morse code was, well, it was certainly a most unexpected revelation. Counsel?
Quite so, my lord. The prosecution was caught entirely off guard. In fact, I think we should applaud my learned friend's courage here today. I propose a toast to demanding that government secrets be disseminated before the entire courtroom.
Very sorry about that. That was the only way that I could get Inspector Gregson to admit what he'd done, so... If I may say something on that... Wait. If I may say something on that point... If I may say something on that point... Isn't that... about the sounds produced by the music box before. I do wonder if that was really Morse code at all. What? What are you saying, madam? Oh well, it's just that I'm really rather fanatical when it comes to Morse code, you see. So much that the whole world seems to be covered in dots and dashes to me, in fact. Goodness, madam. An unhealthy level of oh my god, I can't fucking say that. An unhealthy level of obsession one feels. But I must say that in my opinion, the sounds produced by those two discs were nothing more than that. A series of two different tones. What? But can that really be? Was it Morse code after all? My lord, the defense would like to listen to the music box again.
Are you off your nut? God, blimey, are you off your nut? How many times do I have to tell you those discs contain ministerial secrets, sunshine? This courtroom is not an appropriate forum to discuss the nature of the government communications. We know McGill conspired to trade national secrets with our enemies, secrets acquired from Mr. Graydon. Now that the man has admitted to his crimes, we have no need to pursue the matter further.
Oh, but it's really gonna bother me. Mr. Lestrade.
Yeah, my lord?
That what you have seen today here in this courtroom has been extremely disturbing.
Falsified evidence, intimidation, perjury, a grim catalogue of depravity.
An appalling experience to befall any child.
Come on, ain't nothing I don't see most days in the back slums.
I beg your pardon?
If you're weak, you pay for it. That's just how life goes.
Sheena.
Well look, I reckon I worked something out today. The world ain't fair, but if you want it to change, you've got to start at home. You've got to change how you are yourself.
Well, that's a very laudable lesson, I would say. I eagerly look forward to the born-again Miss Lestrade never gracing my courtroom with her presence again. Now, with regard to the murder of Mr. Pop Windybank, proprietor of a pawnbrokery business on Baker Street, I hereby declare the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, not Guilty. Whee! Oh, let her brought the, who let her bring this? Who let her bring that grenade launcher into court again? That is all. Court is adjourned. On a personal note, I must say you've surprised me, my Far Eastern friend. Ah. Oh. Despite being a Nipponese, you saw through the pretense of the malice that festered within that Englishman, and at the same time saw through the grime to the surprising heart of your English client. You have a curious talent for judging character, especially considering our very different cultures. I don't think there's anything curious about it. Whether we're from the Empire of Great Britain or the Empire of Japan, we're all human beings. We're not so very different on the inside. You know, I took this case for one simple reason. To lock swords with you once again here in the courtroom. You did? When I encountered you for the first time 2 months ago, it reminded me of toasting friendship and trust with another Nipponese, only to find my trust betrayed. Through you, I hope to look into the eyes of the man I once knew, and try to understand. You mentioned something similar earlier today, about total betrayal at the hands of the Japanese. What happened exactly? Well, you may ask. And one day, when the time comes, you will learn the answer, whether you like it or not. Alright, then I'll wait for that day, if I must. Coming to be known as the Rebirth of Bailey, and my retirement from service 5 years ago, it gives me cause to wonder if our meeting has some deeper purpose. So, farewell, my lone Nipponese fellow, till we meet again. Yeah, I feel bad for the janitor of this place. Another goddamn Von Zeke's case. There can be wine glass shards everywhere and wine everywhere. And there you go. It's done. It's over at last. But where's Iris disappeared to? Ah. Congratulations, Gina. I knew it all along. I knew that you were innocent. Well, you did what you said, Miss Naruto. You believed in me. Right up to the end. You're as old as ever. You're as old as your name. What's odd about it? I told you I had faith in you, didn't I? No one ever has before, you see? Kept the promise, I mean, properly. That's awful. I figured something out today. All my life growing up in the slums, I never trusted no one. But that's just because I've been scared of being stabbed in the back. I mean, the more you trust someone, the more it hurts when they let you down. Yes, I think I can understand that. After all, I had a taste of it in that trial 2 months ago. I chose to trust someone and paid for it. That betrayal left a big scar. You know though, Gina, I worked something out quite recently too. Trusting in someone else is really an exercise in learning to trust yourself. When your gut tells you it's the right thing to do, and your trust is rewarded, there's no better feeling in the world. And I have you to thank for reminding me of that valuable lesson. Oh, well, if you say so. That make a fat lot of sense to me, though. Trying to say that putting my faith in you, Gina, has been a real pleasure. For crying out loud, pack it in! But I suppose I sort of feel the same way. I mean, sometimes trusting someone else is, you know, alright. Thanks. This is the way I see it, Ryunosuke. A defense lawyer is only as good as his faith in his client. And that comes down to how much faith he has in himself. After this experience, I'm starting to feel like I understand what you mean. Kazuma, am I living up to your expectations? Am I turning out to be the lawyer you believed I could be? Pardon the interruption. But what the deuce does a man have to do to be noticed around here, my dear fellow? That voice. It's too late for that voice now, Miss Naruhodo. I've been standing here patiently in the corner of the room for an eternity. Ah ha ha, yes, it was me all along. I would have said when you finally noticed me. But you people, with your incessant babbling. Mr. Elms. Ah ha ha, ah ha, yes, it was me all along, you see? I'd assumed you'd been taken back to the hospital, to be honest. Indeed I was, but I managed to escape again. Oh. I happen to be aware of one or two foibles of the doctor who was tending to me. I merely made my knowledge of them known to the man, and he happily issued me with a leave of absence. Very above board. But enough of my adventures. That was a fine victory, Miss Naruhodo. Your tireless efforts justly rewarded, I feel. Congratulations are in order. As a close friend, I tip my hat at you. Oh, thank you. Some great detective you are. Great at being cold as ice, maybe. I irked you in some way, Mr. Strahd. While you've been having a snooze in your nice soft bed, some of us have been fighting for our lives. Ah well, that bullet did cause me to lose a substantial amount of blood, it's true. So I've indeed been feeling somewhat cold. Not perhaps as cold as ice, but, well, have a feel. Could you take your hands off my neck, please, Mr. Holmes? And in some way, I suppose, congratulations are in order for you too, Mrs. Strahd. What's that supposed to mean? Why so half-hearted? Well, naturally, it isn't my intention to alarm you, but an acquittal in a trial with that particular prosecutor is perhaps a little precarious. Well done, Mr. Holmes. Not alarming in the slightest. Oh, the Reaper, you mean? Because anyone who's found not guilty in a trial he was working on winds up dead anyway. Is that it? Very point I was trying to make. Is exemplified by the fate of Mr. McGilded, in fact. Ah, but of course, I pay no attention to such irrational drivel myself. Yeah, well, it don't bother me. Oh, really? Of course not. Well, I see. The Reaper's a bit like him upstairs. Him upstairs? You mean like God? Yeah, him upstairs knows what's what, right? He knows what people are like on the inside. He won't have got the wrong end of the stick. There are some covers like that bog trotter what are rotten to the core. At the end of the day, him upstairs makes sure they get what they deserve. I suppose that's one way of looking at it. Divine justice is one thing, though. The Reaper taking matters into his own hands and claiming lives is another. Well, I ain't like the McGildeds of this world, so I ain't scared. I got principles, see? A trait in you which is to be admired, Mr. Strahd. Oi, just give a rest, alright? As I was saying, congratulations are in order. The news of your acquittal was very welcome news to me indeed. Let me express my heartfelt congratulations, Gina. Well, there you are, Hurley. How long have you been here? Honestly, I went to the main entrance especially to meet you there. Oh, Iris, my dear, I do apologize. But wait until I tell you what happened. This pair made other fools of themselves. What happened? As you know, I have a penchant for disguise. I was hiding in this room dressed as a bailiff. But these dolts didn't notice my presence at all. They had no idea. Can you imagine, Iris? Would you credit it? I'm not sure, really. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, Early, but you just don't have the weighty presence you seem to think you have. In fact, you really ought to be careful about that. It's going to land you in trouble one day. I'll be careful. Ouch. Anyway, it's such a shame. I was so hoping to throw a party for Ginny tonight. But you won't be able to come, will you? Don't look like I'm gonna be going nowhere for a while. You're the judge's patter. I've got stuff to make amends for, apparently. All the offenses. What was it again? Breaking and entering, taking the box, trying to stuff what was in the lug, blah blah blah. Yes, I think you'll find that basically being a pickpocket is the main offense. But do I even need an offense? It's a job, ain't it? I don't think so. Still, it has got me thinking all this. Maybe I should start looking for another line of work. I mean, you didn't start off as a lawyer, did you, Odo? Did you, Odo? Well, no, but I was never a pickpocket. Well, anyway, I reckon I could make a change. I'm gonna do something for all them lot like me from the slum. Something that makes a difference for them.
That's a wonderful idea, Ginny, and I'm sure you can do it. What is it?
Nothing.
Miss Gina Lestrade, the prison carriage has arrived, ma'am. Come with me to the rear gate at once.
Right. Well, looks like I'm off then. Yes. Goodbye, Gina. And good luck.
Odo?
Yes?
Ah! What was that for?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say, so...
Ah, indeed. Perhaps the situation calls for a phrase hitherto missing from your vocabulary, Miss Lestrade. Eh? On occasions such as this, I would recommend a simple thank you.
Oh.
Oh, yes. It's good advice, Ginny.
Oh, I see. Well... Thanks, Odo. Thank you for everything. What were you done? For believing in me. Not at all. In fact, that should be my line. Thank you, Gina.
Ah, that smile.
Well, there she goes. Wonder if I'll ever see her again.
Well, well. Quite the indomitable pick purse. Oh, I nearly forgot. I bought a paper outside. It's a special edition, and this child's all over the front page. Pickpockets, innocence proven. Isn't it wonderful?
You should have shown it to Gina, Iris. She would have been thrilled.
Oh no, how silly of me. Ah, but anyway, would you like the good news or the bad news?
Ugh, not again.
Well, what do you say, Runa? Early?
As usual, I think I'd rather get the bad news out of the way first.
Absolutely not. I have no intention of listening to anything but good news. And there you have it. How people answer that question says a lot about them, doesn't it?
Let's not go there.
Alright then, maybe let's start with the good news this time. The rain has finally stopped. There was a record level of rainfall, apparently. Well, that is good news indeed. We can journey back in greater comfort.
Alright then, what's the bad news?
The huge storm has left the seas very choppy. The channel in particular is awful, so sailings out of Dover have been delayed by a day or more.
Wait, Dover?
That's right. If we head to the station immediately, we may still make it in time to wave Susie off.
But there won't be a train, surely. We wouldn't be that lucky.
Who do you think I am, Miss Naruto?
Mr. Holmes?
I rushed to Victoria Station earlier and made arrangements for a special express. If we hurry now, we shall be there in time for dinner. I know of a fine restaurant that serves the most delicious baked sole.
The great detective does it again.
Indeed he does. I happen to be aware of a number of the rail transport director's foibles.
What?
I merely made my knowledge of them known to the man, and he happily laid on a locomotive. Elementary.
Just an idea, but it might be wise to stop manipulating people that way.
What are we waiting for then? To London, Victoria.
There you go, at the port of Dover.
That took somewhat longer than I had anticipated. Susie's boat must be about to leave now.
Miss Susato, where are you? Over there, look. It looks like she's reading something. Miss Susato, wait! What are you doing?
Mr. Naruhodo, what are you doing here?
We came as soon as we could after the trial. I mean, we heard that sailings were being delayed due to the bad weather, you see.
Oh, I see. Then tell me, how did Gina's trial go?
It went well. She was acquitted.
That's wonderful. Really wonderful news.
The book you were about to throw into the sea. It was your Encyclopedia of British Law, wasn't it?
Oh dear, I was hoping you hadn't seen that. I'm not worthy of practicing law in any way now. So, I was saying my final farewell.
You were saying goodbye to law? You, Susato-san?
Would I be correct in assuming? It's because of the peephole, Miss Susato.
Susato.
Fuck, I keep on fucking... I deliberately altered the scene of a crime scene, and then I tried to hide the fact. What I did is utterly unforgivable. That reminds me. How did you even come to have this, Susie? On the evening of the incident, Mr. Holmes had invited Gina to dinner, if you remember. Oh yes, we had a wonderful time. Well, Gina gave us a little introductory lesson, didn't she? The art of pickpocketing, I mean. Oh, that was so much fun. I still Bruno's armband.
Yes, please don't do that again, Iris. That band's very important to me.
Well, if it's so important, you should pay more attention to it. You didn't notice for ages. On a whim, I thought it would be fun to see if I could take the cat flapomat, so I put him up my sleeve. Really? And then I rather forgot about it, until I found myself in Mr. Windybank's shop with it later that night.
I see.
And then... Ah! Mr. Holmes! Mr. Holmes! Leave me, Miss wait. Leave me, Miss Naruhodo.
Right.
After Miss Naruhodo left the shop, I started to think. That door started to play on my mind.
The storeroom door, you mean?
Yes, if Gina was anywhere in the shop, I realized it could only be behind that door. And at that moment, the little device I had up on my sleeve sprang to mind. I was so worried about Gina, I simply had to know.
So you used the cat flapomat to make the peephole in the door.
As captured in a photographic print of the shop by one of Hurley's red-handed recorders. Indeed, it was one of the first. It was of the first importance then. That point, precisely when the peephole was made, that information would prove to be Mr. Naruhodo's greatest weapon. Though naturally, without proof, it would have amounted to nothing. When I looked through the hole in the door, the sight that met my eyes made my blood run cold. Thoughts started to run through my mind. I remembered that trial 2 months earlier. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Thought about how he had manipulated the evidence and arranged false testimony to secure his freedom. It made the British justice system feel very dark and sinister to me. Then a terrible thought occurred to me. What if some wicked criminal was planning to do the same thing now? Because from the appearance of the crime scene, it looked exactly as though Gina had shot Mr. Windybank. Even though I was sure she would never have done such a thing.
You were worried that the true culprit would try to frame her for the crime?
That's right, but then I realized it would be very difficult for anyone to give false testimony in this case.
What do you mean? Well, the crime appeared to have happened behind the door of a locked room. For someone to claim falsely to have witnessed it, there would have been a way to see beyond the door. Ah. For which a peephole would be the very thing. Only the people I had made wasn't exactly there until after the crime had been committed, of course. The criminal would know that, so it wouldn't make any difference. Or the possibility of a rather ingenious trap was there, was it not? A trap? Is that why she did it?
So is that why you kept it a secret, Susie? You never mentioned that you made the peephole to anyone, not even to the police.
I know, and I knew at the time what I was doing was wrong, a criminal offense even. That's why I decided to confide in Mr. Holmes. If Miss Naruto was completely backed into a corner, and with no other possible means of escape, the truth about the people could save him. That was my plan. She really does think of everything. But then, why didn't you just tell me everything before the trial began?
My dear fellow, you're not thinking straight.
If she had done that, it would have rendered you complicit in the whole escapade.
You could have been disbarred if you had been sentenced to have knowingly tampered with a crime scene. So Miss Susato decided to shoulder the burden of responsibility alone. For your sake, and Miss Lestrade's.
Miss Susato. The truth is, when it happened, I did it because I lost a little of my faith in the law. Oh. I was worried that the right person would be convicted of the crime. Wouldn't be, sorry. But the moment I allowed myself to think that, is the moment I lost my right to call myself a judicial assistant. What you did is incomparable to what he did. Graydon is the one who lied in the witness stand, using that people as a way to implicate Gina. And besides, if the people inconsistency hadn't existed, I'm not at all sure that she would have been acquitted in the end. Miss Susato, what you did saved Gina's life. With your kind words, Mr. Naruto, you saved me too from my regrets.
Well, we must all be thankful that Miss Lestrade's freedom had been assured.
Yes, exactly. Although some of the loose ends in that trial will continue to play on my mind, I'm sure.
The revelation that the music box disc contains secret messages, Mr. Naruto, what a triumph to work that out. I'm full of admiration.
Well, actually, that argument wasn't quite as compelling as I thought it was.
Oh, it wasn't?
There was a communications officer among the jury members, you see, a telegraph operator. And she said that the majority of the sounds in the disc were just meaningless tones.
As one would expect. After all, we are talking about the secret government communications. No doubt they were written in cipher, to avoid being readily understood should they have been intercepted.
In cipher, I see. So then we could never have hoped to understand the message anyway.
Nonsense, my dear fellow. It's quite a zero-pipe problem, I assure you. Sogi.
What?
Well, that can't be a real word, can it? How funny. Wait, Iris, what did you just say? Oh, I just said asogi. Does that word mean something to you?
Mean something? Sogi was the name of my best friend.
What? But how'd you know the name, Iris? I wrote it down during the trial before, when the message was playing on the music box.
She transcribed it on the fly. She really is a genius.
I thought the message probably wouldn't be written out in plain Morse code, so I tried various ways to interpret it. But whatever I tried, the words just didn't seem to make any sense. That is, in English at least.
Oh.
It suddenly occurred to me, you see, there's more than one Morse code, not just the English variety. Various countries around the world have altered and added to Morse code to use it in their own languages.
I don't believe it. Are you saying?
That's right. I've only actually seen a chart of Japanese Morse code once before. But I think it's based on the Iroha pentagram, isn't it?
You mean to say that in Japanese Morse code the message says asogi?
Yes, I think so. Sorry, but I don't remember all of the Japanese Morse code.
Iris, would you let me see that? Miss Susato, do you know it? Do you know Japanese Morse code?
Yes, I spent some time studying it.
because I'm quite sure Morse code will become ever more important for international communications. Then might I recommend, my dear madam, that you focus your efforts on the English version. Be that as it may, Iris, show me the message, please. Of course. But what can this possibly mean? Whatever it is in that long sequence of supposedly meaningless dots and dashes. It's made the color drain from Susato-san's face. There's no doubt that this message is written in Japanese Morse code, so the British Empire has been using Japanese for its secret communications. I don't understand the reason why, but the message appears to be a list of 4 people's names. 4 names? The first is Kei Asogi, Kazuma Asogi. Why? Why was his name on that disc? The second is A. Shin. Shin? I don't recognize that name. The third is T. Guregu-san. Gregson? Ah, it would seem Tobias Gregson is the third man on the list. And what's his name doing in a secret government communication as well? And the last name... What's the matter, Miss Susato? Susato? Fuck. I keep on fucking... It's just so strange, so unexpected.
Oh, what is it, Susie? Don't keep us in suspense.
The last name is J. Watson.
What?
Watson?
John H. Watson? You mean Daddy?
It says only J. Watson, so I'm afraid I can't be sure. Then, after the 4 names, it reads, if I translate from Japanese, that is all 4. And that's the end of the message. Or rather, the end of what you noted down, Iris. Just can't believe it. Who would ever have that? Who would ever have thought that those discs contained Japanese Morse code? Not to mention a strange list of some disturbingly familiar names.
It would appear that this particular message is a communication of some kind between Great Britain and the Empire of Japan. So Daddy could be in Japan then? Where's Susie and Runo come from? Oh, well... No, it's not very likely, really, is it? I mean, there are thousands of people with the surname Watson. There must be lots of J's among them.
Professor John H. Watson, visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. But we can't tell Iris about that now. We just can't. This is so strange. Somehow in solving the case of Mr. Windybank's murder today, I feel like I've rolled back a boulder at the mouth of a very dark cave. I do wonder if perhaps it's a dark cave that we shouldn't go wandering inside. Oh dear, this ship is going to set sail soon. Yes, it seems so. I'll sail on that steamship first to the port of Dunkirk in France, then I'll change onto a larger passenger vessel bound for Japan.
You're really going then, Susie?
We wish you a safe passage, Miss Susato. Thank you so much. I wish you all the very best. Miss Susato. I had hoped to have you always on my side, to guide me and support me. Mr. Naruhodo, please, come back soon. As far as I'm concerned, you really are the very best judicial assistant in the world. I'm quite sure I'll be back before you know it.
Really, Susie?
Oh, now don't forget, Iris. I made you a promise I've yet to fulfill. Promise?
A promise?
About your manuscript.
Ah.
Oh yes, the Hound of the Baskerville.
Well, I'll be waiting for you then, Susie. A promise is a promise.
Definitely, Iris. Miss Naruhodo. Yes? Do you remember the first time we met? Yes, of course. On the SS Buria when I was dragged out from that wardrobe, still half asleep. If I remember rightly, you threw me halfway across the cabin with a Susato takedown.
You know very well that I'm talking about after that. It's strange, but being thrown together as we were in that case, I somehow felt straight away that you were the perfect person to continue Kazuma-sama's great legacy. Miss Suzuto. And my instincts were right. I really want to believe. No, I'm sure that. I'll be back soon. Farewell until then.
これでなるほど龍之介、最初の冒険の物語はおしまいだ。思えば不思議な運命に導かれてここまで来たような気がする。僕は弁護士になって異国の街で名探偵と出会った。これからもきっとさまざまな困難が僕を待ち受けているのだろう。でもどんな危機だって大逆転できる、そんな気がする。だって僕には世界最高の仲間がいるのだから。
Ah, yes, Miss Naruhodo. Yes, Mr. Holmes? I have some rather awkward news. The railway company has decided to sue over the special express train, apparently. Huh? It caused such a commotion on the line, all the other trains had to wait at stations. But really, we would never have made it to Dover in time otherwise. Anyway, I explained everything, and how it was all your fault. Huh? I believe a formal complaint should be delivered to your office tomorrow. But not to worry, my dear fellow. According to Miss Suzuto, you love defending yourself in court. Huh? It's alright, I'm perfectly happy to testify. He really didn't look like the sort of man who'd do something so outrageous. See?
Mr. Holmes?
Yes?
A word, if you don't mind.
Why, certainly, any word you like. Bellow it out, my dear fellow. Oh yes, I love Runo's words. I know just the one he'll use here.
Then I really must say...
I love the credits for this. In the following weeks, hundreds of music boxes arrived at Baker Street from all over Europe. Something was afoot, though it transpired that I had ordered them all myself. So I advertised them for sale with, used by Mr. Holmes to solve an important case. And the money I've earned, consulting detective work pays a pittance by comparison.
Cause yeah, Nuri, you can fucking make some amazing goddamn character art, man. Character designs.
I haven't slept a wink. This manuscript is due tomorrow now. When I'm this busy, Hurley usually cooks me breakfast. Well, cooks is an overstatement, with some dry toast and insipid coffee. I do miss Susie and her lovely Japanese breakfasts.
Oh. Yeah. Yasumasa Kitagawa. Oh my god, your fucking music's so good.
Witness, your testimony is riddled with contradictions. Exactly, I really do rare carbon cones hide under rare takes themselves. Well, I don't know, sir. I don't know, sir. Knows his father is an innocent man. Are you calling my son a liar? Witnesses, my courtroom is no place for your petty arguments. I forgot what voice I gave him. Having delivered the Russian dancer to shore in Shanghai, I laid low on the steamship for a while. But last night, I apprehended an extremely suspicious Japanese national on board. I've done nothing wrong! All I did was give Wakahai's offspring refuge in my pocket. And then bring some kittens on board, and suddenly, he's a hardened criminal! It's not fair! For their parents! Scientific investigation will be the gold standard for policing in the new age. I dream of a world governed by the tenets of order and discipline. Like a great clock, in fact, whose hundreds of parts mesh together in a perfect unison. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have but 2 minutes and 37 seconds until my next appointment. This Rats magazine is out, and I'm in it again. Oh, blimey. So whenever I say that one line she wrote now, I'll get a standing ovation. Wanna hear it? Not bad, I suppose. For an amateur. Amateur. Her ladyship puts me to shame. I'm visiting an old girl on a daily basis, of course. Jody, my old jailbird. Must say, battling with those bally stairs every day has done wonders for the dicky peg. Managing rather well with the housework, too. Got this maid business tapped up, I'd say. Hope the gossiping neighbors don't realize a man of the house is his own maid. My Rolly is back on the beat again. All thanks to the Reaper. There's nothing I enjoy more these days than hunting out a small change in the gutter. I'm a better Bobby now, looking out for Londoners. They're dropped to have pennies and my lovely wife. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Looks like I'm gonna be doing time for a bit now. Wires comes every day for another, so it ain't too boring. She's always going on about all them cases what Holmes is looking into. Criminal investigations are kind of interesting when you get into them. Yes, I renounce my upbringing and chose a life of sophisticated crime. But regrets, please. Give over, bruv. This ain't the Ash we used to know. We got Tommy here to plan to come back of Milverton and Skulkin's milk run, alright? 3 Musket, what's it's? Milk in the neighborhood for all it's worth. Yeah, it's not really gonna happen at least with Ashley there. This past 6 months has been a time I shall remember forevermore. Painful goodbyes and wonderful encounters. I've come to realize that's what life is all about. Naruhodo-san, I promise. Your assistant will return to you one day. But for now, I leave you with many memories and a heartfelt wish.
that life will treat you well. Fucking Daruma still hasn't been painted in yet. Oh, I love this picture so much. Kinda wish Naruhodo wore the hat more. I love the hat. And there you have it. The Let's Play for the Great Ace Attorney Adventures is almost complete. We're doing a bonus episode. You probably will be able to guess what that bonus episode is. But yeah, that's going to be saved for next time. And don't worry, I'll talk about all the features and all that stuff for the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles eventually. Of course, I have to play through the second game before I do handle that. So anyway, before talking about just this game in general, and also I guess I won't show the case ranking because I want you guys to see how the credits look like here. I'll just talk about some of the references that were in this case. So there's the Boscombe Valley Mystery, which is an actual Sherlock Holmes short story. There's a quote we missed, which was "What doesn't kill us makes us stronger," which is what does not kill me makes me stronger from Frederick Nietzsche. What do you know about? We already remember the Gina making the reference to the Police, that rock band that I never hear anyone ever talk about. A lot of Holmes' deductions, of course, are always based on plots from stories, and the Red-Headed League is indeed one. And I guess the other reference is, Gina calling herself Robin Hood. That's about it, which is an obvious reference there. So anyway, this game, I fucking love it. When I first played this, I couldn't believe it. I was kind of on an Ace Attorney burnout, I'll be real. It wasn't that long ago when I had played The Spirit of Justice, and I had a lot of problems with the game. As you saw from my case ranking, most of the cases are lower on the list. With the exception of case 3 was really fucking good. And I've been kind of out of it for the Ace Attorney games. But then once Scarlet Study finished the translation for the Great Ace Attorney 1, I played it right away on Citra along with friends of mine, and we both fell in love with this game. It was a long time that I felt burnt out with Ace Attorney, but this game rekindled my love for it. It's always gonna have a special place in my heart for that. It's my second favorite game for that reason. Sure, the first case, I will say, has, of course, the issues with how long it ended up being. The culprit literally broke evidence in front of everyone and pretty much got away with it. So I'm always gonna have a problem with that case. The rest of the cases are really damn good, especially case 3 and 5, which, as you see later from the ranking, case 5 is my favorite case in this particular game. It tied together the McGilded stuff, it got to uncover all the mysteries behind the McGilded case. You saw how fucking disgusting McGilded is. You saw how fucking crazy everything was being. And of course, we had so many badass moments, like literally Naruhodo saying, "I don't care if I make of the enemy of the government or the entire British Empire. I'm going to solve this case." Badass as shit. Of course, Sherlock Holmes is one of the best characters in the entire. Is the best character in the Ace Attorney series. Brock von Zieks is basically close second. I kind of fought back and forth, honestly, but I honestly think Sherlock Holmes is the best character. Susato is the best assistant. We're of course going to see that more in the sequel, which, by the way, there is the sequel. It's even fucking better than this game. As you guys saw, 3 of the fucking 5 cases. I believe, actually, wait, hang on a second. I think it's actually 4 of them. Well, we're going to see after. No, actually, we'll just quick. Yeah, 4 of the 5 cases from the Great Ace Attorney 2 are at the highest echelons for me when it comes to Ace Attorney cases. They are so goddamn good, and I can't wait to get into that game eventually. And of course, covering the rest of what the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles shows us. One thing I will have to say though, when it comes to the next episode, you're gonna end up seeing the name Herlock Sholmes everywhere because there was a glitch with the mod that changes the name, where a lot of the images in the gallery and in other places are glitched to fuck. So I just have to replace it with I have the old file, of course, that I need to replace it with, so I just, change it up again. Look at cute little Waddle. Oh my god. This is fucking adorable. Gina's one of my favorite of the accused. I love so many of the cases in this game. This case is so fucking good. Oh my god, this game is so fucking good. That case was so fucking good. Finn. So I'm gonna show the case ranking. Actually, I'm gonna show you quick. You're gonna actually, well, I guess you're gonna figure out that I'm gonna be doing the Great Escapades. I'll show you because of the glitch here, because of the mod. It actually ends up fucking that over. Of course, I'll talk about all these things eventually when the second game comes around. Accolades. Oh, yeah, you get an accolade, of course, for completing the last case there, and you get an accolade for completing the escapades. Which, by the way, I haven't actually played the escapades ever, so it's gonna be my first time seeing them. Next episode. So anyway, let's go back to the case ranking here. So, yeah, it is my third favorite case in the entire series. It takes the amazing McGilded case, of course, and you end up finding out everything about it, and adds on more to it. You get to see how fucking I don't even know what else to say. It's just fucking amazing. It's unbelievably amazing. Like, I can't gush enough about this case. But anyway, what am I really gonna? I mean, I'll just say in the bonus episode what I'm really gonna have in store. Sorry about that. For the rest of this, for the next Let's Play in Lost Sandy, I already gave a hint in my 3 houses randomized about the next game, the next Let's Play being me returning to a game I played before, doing something with it. So you're gonna have to see. But anyway, I'll talk more about it once I do the Great Escapades, or the Escapades, or the Rants Magazine as it is used to be called. In any case, I'll be seeing you guys next time. Take care.